Hello and welcome back to Holy Discourse. We're going to watch this Oompa video about Dogpack, about the Mr. Beast situation. I didn't do a video on the Dogpack one. I didn't even really watch it. I watched like a couple minutes of it, thought about making a video about it, and then I seen Oompaville came out with a interview, and from what I know, it sounds like Dogpack was just kind of giving information, and I like interviews a little bit more. It's a little bit more back and forth, and to me it's a little bit more kind of interesting and can be more informative.
Pure news, no opinion whatsoever, guys. It is important to be as rational as possible and confront the facts as they shall be confronted. That being said, though, this is still all very surprising. There's obviously people who are going to dislike Mr. Beast and who have disliked him for a very long time for being cringe, whatever, overproduced videos, whatever you say, having a candy company.
I never knew how I felt about Mr. Beast of like, it was always kind of like a weird, like, yeah, okay, cool, he's doing, good stuff, like he's giving homeless people money and stuff like that, but he's also making a spectacle out of them, and so I was like, I don't really know how I feel about that. Morally wise, it's kind of on the edge, because yes, you're doing a good thing, but at the same time, you're also like using people for views, but at the same time, those views can help more people. So it's kind of like, it's just like this weird vicious cycle of, is this okay, is this not okay? And now it kind of seems like Mr. Beast is maybe not a good person if he's letting all this kind of stuff happening. If he's hiring these people and he knows of their past and they haven't done good in their past. One of them supposedly is like a sex offender. So, I mean, if all true and you're knowing that you're hiring these people in, it's kind of like, that's not good, and that creates a culture of just, it doesn't create a good work environment or good work culture.
Stuff that's come out, I think that's pretty much the general consensus at this point, is that a lot of what Dawson has said is legit and needs to be acknowledged, and then some of it is just cannot be proven at all because people just aren't willing to put their necks on the line, and it's like anonymous sources and they wish to be journalism, right? It's like a journalist thing. If there's anything bad, I want it to get out. That's where I stand at it. Dogpack, aka Dawson, has been a very busy boy exposing the very long list, extensive list of things going on at Mr. Beast's company. From videos being faked in several different ways, in spite of claims that they've never been faked, to CGI being used extensively or lying about details of the videos, putting friends, family in videos so they can control the outcomes and make people who they want to win, faking the results of videos, running illegal lotteries on the channel, selling
I mean, yes, that's kind of setting stuff up, but with Jake Weddle, we're kind of seeing that even like employees are actually getting paid for what they're doing, at least. So I'd hope the family members would have the same thing. But that's a whole nother side tangent of is he paying his family, or is it like the family is just doing it as like a favor and then they're advertising it? That I have no clue. So that's just something that I think would be interesting to look into, but I would have no way to look into it.
Signatures, marketing Feastables as healthy, their chocolate, and then changing the recipe so it's seemingly even worse than it was before, and even worse than Hershey's, who was the original main competitor of. Or even exposing the fact that some pretty serious favoritism exists to the company with an in crowd and an out crowd, and pay is determined by which side you're on.
There's another writer there, older comic, black guy, he had a kid, and I got paid more than him, and I thought that was wild because he was older than me, had a child, we're doing the exact same job, and I'm some 20-year-old white guy, why am I getting paid more than him? I brought that up.
It's a very political.
Yeah, like if the dude had more experience and stuff like that, you would expect him to get paid more because he has more experience than Jake. So that is a little strange that they're getting paid the same.
Thing. There's a lot of politics in work and in a lot of different businesses, and this is just what happens when there's total transparency. People start coming out and talking shop about it, all right? Maybe not talking shop, maybe talking shit. Also, alleged mistreatment of people in videos.
They weren't turning the lights off. You know, I asked them, I said, can we like have like nighttime hours? You know? And they said no, because it would fuck up the time.
See, that's okay. So this is me maybe just not being aware of how the human body works. At first I was like, okay, yeah, that's weird, but like you could like cover your head with like a blanket, you could do whatever, and I'm like, yeah, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. And then he was like, yeah, so apparently that's like they can't do that to terrorists. And I was like, oh, I just don't understand how the human body works. Okay, so apparently, I mean, they probably do it for some reason, and I would assume it's probably like the same reason like you don't want to put someone in isolation for too long because they're going to go a little crazy, is because your body just can't. I mean, say it like I think about I don't remember where it was, but we went down in this like cave and stuff like that, and they were like, okay, we're gonna like turn the lights off for a second, and they were like, did anyone start seeing random things? And it's like I did. Like, I thought someone's, like, shoes were, like, light-up shoes because I felt like I was seeing something. And he was just like, oh, that's just, like, your mind playing tricks on you. Literally, he didn't even turn it off for, like, 30 seconds. And I was, apparently, my brain was already starting to go crazy and making things up. So I can't imagine having the lights on for that long and, like, not going crazy. Like, literally going crazy. Like, my brain was, like, trying to justify it for a second, and then, once he said that, I was, like, I remembered that, like, experience, and I was, like, yes, that is actually insane. Like, oh my goodness, like, why would I ever justify that was okay? Like, and Mr. Beast has, like, a team. And he could hire, like, psychologists or whatever to, like, make sure that, like, if they're doing experiments like this, because it's basically, pretty much what it is. It's like Mythbusters when they did the whole cabin fever episode. And Adam started, like, freaking going crazy and taking apart the coat hangers and making, like, figurines and all sorts of random crap with it. Like, you would think you would, like, hire someone to make sure, like, the person was mentally stable, to make sure that they can actually go through with this challenge and, like, keep checking up on them. Because obviously they're letting people go in there because they're letting Mr. Beast go in there. So I don't understand why they couldn't, like, hire, like, a psychiatrist or a psychologist just to make sure, like, hey, this person is mentally still okay and they can continue, you know, with this video as long as they want to continue.
Lapse shots. The time lapse of what? Me sleeping? Or me not sleeping?
Having super unrealistic expectations of people in videos.
And I go, what's the challenge today? He goes, you're gonna run a marathon. You're gonna do the 22.6K, whatever it is. You're gonna do it on that
12
treadmill.
miles, I think.
Having offenders on staff
It's
knowing
like 12 or
about
13
it and
miles.
hiding it.
But that guy,
I looked it up.
from what I hear, I can't confirm or deny, from what I hear.
Which, like, I sometimes, like, I'll work out and do 5 miles, and then after that I am trashed. I can't imagine doing, like, 12 or 13 miles. Holy smokes.
He's on the registry for doing some not great stuff to some underage people. And they knew that.
Ouch.
He's working at a channel that has underage people on and around and is targeted to underage people.
Also allegedly using charities and philanthropic acts for public image maintenance over a good deed for the sake of doing something good.
If I give this homeless guy 10K, what do you mean I'm a bad guy? But I've always thought, if you're gonna do something nice for somebody, and you stick a camera in their face while you do it, you didn't do a nice thing for somebody. You gained something. You There was a homeless
it's a
guy on the
whole
street,
moral
and you
dilemma.
saw an opportunity for yourself.
Which there's plenty of arguments against that, by the way. I mean, you know, we'll get into it though. Basically, a bunch of really bad stuff was being claimed. Started with Dawson coming out. He worked for Mr. Beast for a short period of time. Then Jake Weddle had a lot more experience with Mr. Beast. He came out, said more stuff, and then now the third video has hit the tower. All right, well, you look like some kind of, you don't look disheveled necessarily, but you actually look less disheveled now than you did in the very, very beginning. Are you getting used to this? Are you getting used to this?
Yeah. Dude, I'm worried about the body language experts reviewing me now.
Oh, yeah. Everyone, review is...
He's not chilling. He's not chilling.
His cortisol is high.
Well, he could have such like a blank face and just like say something super sarcastic where people were like, what does he mean by that? And then he was like, dude, I was just joking. Like, don't worry about it. Like, so he's got one of them personalities where sometimes he's kind of hard to read.
Anyways, so I've got a bunch of questions to ask in regard to your third video, the final video maybe? And before, do you think Mr. Beast is going to respond after this one, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for him to respond. I mean, I'm happy to just sit and watch from the sidelines now. Let the big dogs take over. New York Times, Time Magazine, those type of people.
You think the domino will continue to fall?
Yeah. I mean, that was my goal, is just to be like an early domino, and then
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the big
I was
domino
gonna
because I don't have
he's
the legal firms
he
to,
said
to
that
deal with all that.
Yeah.
But,
when
like that.
last time, his last interview with Opa, where he's like, yeah, it's getting too huge, where he's like, this is out of my realm.
Anyways, the word allegedly is used a lot in this one, more than the previous ones. What do you think was the reasoning behind that, and why do you think it's important to publish more unconfirmed information in the third video? Do you think it's just to, once again, get the domino rolling?
I bet it's because it's like harder to prove stuff because he's getting so much information, and then you have to vet all of it, and you have to. That stuff takes time, and it sounds like some of the stuff that he released was maybe a little too early to release because he can't double check it or hasn't got information back, like with the, what was it, James Warren stuff.
I mean, it's just like testimony. I'm just kind of a conduit for other people's testimony in that video, and then also like dealing with essay allegations. It's very difficult to prove them because usually there's just sort of the two witnesses, the perpetrator and the victim.
Yeah.
And perpetrators definitely don't want to go on the record, and then victims,
Of course.
Usually don't either, in my experience, or at least not with me. But that's fine. So I mean, I'm just sharing other people's testimony and trying to make it clear that like it is just that testimony.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. That's like you're working with what you can, working with what you kind of can work with. And how do you think your intention has evolved from the first video to the third video? Do you think you have the same intention?
Yeah. I mean, maybe now it's like even less about disgruntledness and just like, I don't know. I don't want to use the word obligation, but I feel like there is a social responsibility of like when people are messaging you all these serious allegations.
I was going to say, with everyone coming
sort
at
of
him,
get them out, but you also have to vet
giving
them.
him
So
stories,
it's like,
I'm sure he does feel
it's
obligated.
also potentially some life-ruining allegations. There's like a lot of stuff that I don't feel comfortable putting out because it's so damaging, and there's just like, even though people can corroborate them, it just seems like there'd have to be some evidence. As far as like once you're getting into like claims of underage people and stuff like that.
Got you. What is your kind of like compass when you're determining, because you just mentioned that there's a lot of stuff that you are not putting in the videos, right? And a lot of the stuff that you did put in is very allegedly and very speculative, or testimony from anonymity. Like everything's kind of coming from this. What kind of guides you between the stuff you did put out and the stuff you didn't? Is it like the sources saying not to, or your own like sort of compass, just like this truly is damaging too much, so like this is too much of a risk?
I mean, it's both. There's like obviously the legal threat there, and then also I mean, I've had a lot of off the record conversations, and people very much corroborated like the LaKoya story. So I was like,
it's interesting that a lot of people want to go off the record, which I'm sure they're afraid of, maybe like being sued or something like that. or maybe they're afraid of someone that they know inside the company that like get fired because of, you know, their friend or their family is talking bad or whatever it may be. Which, oh my goodness, I've been watching the Scientology documentary from Leah Remini, and it's just like people not wanting to speak out and them just like hearing stories of, you know, people being hurt or, you know, or even I'll call it the CEO basically, because basically that's what it is. It's a business. Yes, they're tax exempt, and yes, by the feds or the IRS or whatever, they're seen as a church. But really, they're just a business. That's how they run it. So I don't understand how they got tax exempt, but for whatever reason they did. And there's been tons of people that have come out and said, you know, like David Miscavige, like beat me and stuff like that. And it's like, how do you, when you're, because they have to write like reports if like someone's like acting out of line and stuff like that. Like, what are you going to do? Like write a report that the CEO of Scientology just beat the crap out of you? It's like, you know, going to Jimmy's mom, that's the HR, and being like, hey, you know, your son said something inappropriate, or hey, this, you know, something happened. Like, she's like, why would that be the person that you go, you know, there's no checks and balances, basically. And that can be not good, because that can create a very toxic environment, and it can become a very evil place very quickly if the person in power or people in power do not have good morals. If they do have good morals, fantastic, great, you know, you're going to be working for a great company. But if they don't, then you're just not going to, which is always like shocking to me. Like, America's like set up that way. It's like it literally just depends on people and who you're working with, if it's going to be just an evil, toxic just place, or if it's just going to be like a, yeah, they're really cool, they're really chill, and you know, they help me out the best I can. And like, it's just a coin flip, basically.
Totally comfortable running that. But other things, it's like, hey, maybe you should talk to an actual journalist, because obviously I'm not a journalist, I'm not an investigator, I'm just a guy. So yeah, I mean, I send people to Rosanna, I send people to, legitimate sources, I guess, and then I just kind of...
Jake the Viking?
Yeah, I send them all to Jake the Viking. No, I just try to run like what people are very sure that they want to run through me.
Whenever you were able to present evidence like an internal document, for example, the employee handbook you shared in the last video, or testimonies from people who worked at Mr. Beast, what is your process for ensuring credibility and sort of preventing misinformation? Is it truly just you have like you feel an almost obligation, a sense that stuff needs to get out, or like you mentioned, you're not a journalist. Like what do you kind of feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just verify with other employees. I mean, we almost got like a group chat at this point, so
that's pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah,
that's kind of funny. Wow. You think, is Mr. Beast aware of like most of the people?
As far as the people coming out against him?
Yeah, the subversives.
I think a lot of them want to remain anonymous right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People who aren't in the boys club.
Yeah, exactly.
For your 3 videos, what would you consider the best received? How do you compare the reception of the 3rd video to the first 2?
So far, the reception's been great. It was sort of made for a different audience. It wasn't really like a part 3. I kind of like... I like the title part 2.5. I'll probably like unlist it when I post part 3, just so it has like that clean aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the reception would be worse. I didn't personally like it that much. I was considering uploading it on someone else's channel or something, but I mean, yeah.
Interesting.
it's good information. It's just not as entertaining, and it's like
Right.
It's
does a
interesting that he
broad
says it's good
YouTube audience
information,
care
but he
about
wants to
Mr. Beast's
unlist it.
COO? Probably not, but it's good fodder for commentary channels.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't you?
What are some of the most critical points against the third video, and how do you respond to those more critical points? I've seen some tweets, some stuff. Haven't really been keeping up with all of it as much, just because I really want Mr. Beast to respond. And it's just like, how long can you go? Like, what are you doing? What is your response to the most general criticisms that you are aware of in regard to the third video?
Yeah, I mean, some people don't like me saving things for later videos, but I don't really have a choice as far as like getting information out when I can, and also like, yeah, it would be nice to
makes
yeah
sense.
have some incentive for them to not sue me, I suppose. With like, I feel like they are probably worried about what else would come out, like in Discovery and everything, and I think it's good to keep them on their toes.
And like the claim that the secret
Yeah,
CEO.
that also shows that like if they're worried about what's coming out, it's like they know that they're doing other stuff wrong and kind of wanting to hide it. I mean, that's kind of what Scientology does, like, with the Leah Remini, they have like people following them and trying to figure out like what they're doing, what they're saying, all this other stuff. It's been shown that they keep like cameras on people who've blown, basically, people who have exited Scientology and just left, didn't tell anyone, was just like, see ya, I'm gone, pretty much. Just the level of nervousness makes me a little bit more compelled to believe the allegations. Because you normally don't act like that unless you got something to hide.
Oh, James Warren is like abusive, right? I've seen some people saying on Twitter that you shouldn't have included that because you can't really verify it because there's so many abusers named James Warren.
I think, I responded to this on Twitter. You can pull up my tweets, but yeah, I just showed like more corroborating testimony. I mean, it is testimony. I feel like the disclaimers were pretty clear and like they were genuine. Like it is allegedly. I'm
Okay.
sure of that because like even though, yeah, like I've heard from very credible sources, former Mr. Beast employees, that he has DV charges that were filed against him by an ex-girlfriend. Charges don't mean he's guilty, it's not a conviction. It seems to be, from my phone calls, common knowledge that James Warren was sort of like that.
Yeah, it's hard to putting it in a video and just having to say allegedly and then also having to, be honest with your viewers and be like, there's a lot of James Warren, the credibility of it just kind of seems like, just trust me, bro. And although I know like a lot of people don't want to actually come out and give their names and do all this and that, it's also something of like, do you actually just release this information because you're literally just telling people just to like, just trust me, which without evidence at all pointing towards that, of just people's random testimonies and not being able to see any like police reports or anything else, it's kind of like, are you going to believe this or are you not going to believe that? Like, it's double-edged sword,
Allegedly. So
It's really weird because it's like, my next question was, why are you saving things for when Mr. Beast responds? But it makes sense. You're kind of playing a game of incentive, right? Yeah. Well, just to reiterate on that, why are you saving certain things for when Mr. Beast responds?
yeah, I mean, it is, I guess, that game of incentive. I mean, I probably shouldn't be.
I kind of understand that too, because if you're like, if Mr. Beast is apologizing and he's like, oh yeah, I'm like super sorry about this and that, and I want to make sure whatever, and he's got information of stuff that's happening like right now, it kind of shows that Mr. Beast is maybe not actually like sorry about things that have gone on, but at the same time, it's like, do you just continue letting this stuff happen? And like, I think it's important to release it as soon as you can, as long as you have all the evidence. But yeah, I don't know what the right answer to that is.
Open about it. If I'm telling him that I'm playing, knight to f6, but I'm not really trying to play like Sun Tzu level mind games. I'm just like, hey, this is kind of what I'm doing, and if people disagree with that move, then they can disagree with that move. But I think on the one hand, it offers protection for myself and victims. They go through the proper channels. So like, still looking into that. Like if I guess certain documentaries get greenlit by like legitimate productions, then that's a route that people can take. It's just, there's a lot of stuff in the background that I don't know how much I can talk about publicly. So.
Understood. The big question everybody wants to know: are you doing this for clout? Episode 3, are you doing this for clout? Is this a clout thing?
Definitely not episode 3. I mean, that was like intentionally tanked the performance with the thumbnail and title not being the best, and I didn't want to hype it up. But in general, like, obviously, like, I have no financial incentive to get more views, so it doesn't make a difference to me whether on the Dog Pack channel a video gets 10 million or 1 million or whatever, as long as the information gets out to the people that it has to get out to.
And yeah, you have no ads on your channel?
Yeah, I haven't applied for monetization.
That's pretty baller, I'd have to say. If you did this, if you came out with these videos,
Yeah,
and then
if you did monetization, that could be used against him. But I think the proper way to do that would be if he monetized himself to like give it to charity or some of the victims or something like that, just to be like, hey, I am making money off of this, but I'm giving it all away, and here are the receipts for that. So, but usually people still try to use that against you, and it's still just a huge mess. So I think what he ended up deciding of not monetizing it at all is kind of a smart idea.
just left the internet, that would be very cool. I'm not saying you should do that because I think you make very high quality videos, but I think that would be like, that's kind of hard to, even Mr. Beast has got to be like, all right, you got one up on me there. That was pretty baller, dude. Yeah. That's pretty hardcore.
I like that.
Not everyone runs off money. What? Why do you think Mr. Beast would need a secret CEO?
I mean, it could be because of his history. He doesn't want people doing background checks, digging into him. Same thing as LaKoya's secret. It could just be because Jimmy sort of wants to seem like a smaller operation, more amateur to the audience. It could be because Jimmy wants more credit. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why he could have a secret CEO.
Yeah, it's weird if like all this stuff is corroborated.
I don't really know if Mr. Beast wants to look like a small operation. I think, it's pretty obvious that he's got to have some sort of big operation. I'd say it's probably more of he wants to look like the CEO running everything, of going from a small operation to a huge operation. But I could be wrong. But it's just kind of what I figure from what I see.
Comes out as like plausible, even for 70 or 80% in terms of the James Warren and LaKoya stuff. To me, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to hire people put people in high up positions at your companies and them not be pieces of shit, right? Like, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard. But when you have an operation like Mr. Beast, and I asked the clout question for you, it's like you draw a certain kind of person. You don't draw like numbers people. You don't draw people who are into competition. You draw people who are just ambitious at all. It's like late Roman Empire type stuff. Like literally everybody involved in the Republic was just like wanting to kill each other and try to get what everybody else had. And it's weird. I was going over the video. I was kind of thinking about that. I was like, is everyone bad just in general in business, or is it just like the people who want to work at these kind of cool?
No, it's the people you hire, the people you surround yourself with and keep, and even the way you act too. You kind of set the standard as well as like the CEO, and you want to make sure like your hired managers or whatever like keep are on the same moral compass that you are on, because if not, then that can kind of derail parts of your company and make them like corrupt, or just some employees not satisfied, and it's a whole web of stuff of you're trying to make sure that everyone is kind of maybe not happy, but like everything is being run ethically and moral, and it's a place that people want to work.
New, modern, cutting edge clout companies, are they just pieces of shit because that's the type of people who would want to work there? And all the good people are working at Globo Gym or whatever. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's like a sort of vibe that the Mr. Beast operation gives off that just has higher up people who are just super obsessed with clout and money and just ambitious, evil people? Or do you think there's something in the water? Like, why are there so many evil people in this organization?
I do think there's something in the water, but I think it's probably mostly, I mean, going into it, I thought there would be more people sort of attracted to Mr. Beast for the same reasons that people were attracted to working at SpaceX when Elon Musk, like in 2018, when Elon Musk was like, we're going to be interplanetary and help humanity. And I think that attracts a lot of top tier talent who might not be in it for the money. And Mr. Beast also has sort of that messaging, and maybe those people go to the philanthropy side of the business. But I do think also the messaging of like, hey, we got a ton of money, definitely attracts the wrong people, and there's a lot of nepotism. I'll give you an exclusive. Somebody texted me saying that the head of security is Jimmy's stepdad, and he likes to pull knives on people as a joke.
That's crazy.
What?
He's just some old country boy from North Carolina who has no idea that that's like against the law and just horrible violations all across the board. He's like, hey, I'll stab you.
Usually, that is a thumbnail. Usually I don't see like that as like the good old country boys. Usually it's just like random, like something that they say, or, you know, if it's like, oh, I really need to, like, I don't know, like if you're trying to open a box or they're like, oh, I got it, and they just like whip out their knife and not even think about it, and everyone was like, whoa, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's actually trying to help us, because, you know, it's good old country boy type mentality. Or we'll make a joke or something like that. It means absolutely, you know, harmless of it, just making a stupid joke or just saying something trying to be friendly, but like people take it wrong, you know. But I've never had someone that's a good old country boy and just freaking pull out a pocket knife and say they're gonna stab me. Usually those people I stay away from, because those types of people have usually been kind of white trash trailer park people that are on lots of drugs and are not very good people on top of that. So has not been my experience.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It's just a joke. Don't worry.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of like family ties in there. That it's like people who can't really get fired, so I think they don't take it that seriously.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know, at that large of a scale, you can't have a business like that. You have to have like a really professional thing. Not that I would know. I don't have any idea, but I just assume that that's how it works. Seems like whatever he's doing is not working that well. But so to pivot more to James Warren, the domestic violence charge is difficult to investigate in the state of North Carolina due to all the people named James Warren who are committing domestic violence. How do you know the Greenstone Ventures James Warren was the proper James Warren?
I might have misinterpreted the reasoning on why it's hard, because it's like so many James Warrens. It's more so that, well, yes, if you look up the public court filings for James Warren, there's going to be a lot of results. We found the exact James Warren, and I had people run a background check on him. It's just that there's 6 court cases, which could be traffic violations, could be DV related, but it doesn't say on the public registry what it is. So you have to submit a Freedom of Information request, which then takes like 2 weeks. So that's the real reason.
But then, like, how do you know it's the exact James Warren? Maybe this is just me being stupid with the law, but like, how do you know unless I guess if he knows about where he lives around, like, would probably live around the Mr. Beast studios. Maybe that's how. I don't know.
But then,
Okay.
Yeah, what was the other part of that question?
How do you know the Greenstone Ventures
yeah.
Ponzi scheme guy was the same guy?
Yeah, because the actual James Warren, who had his picture on his LinkedIn, had that under his LinkedIn.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Little self-incrimination.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
cool. Allegedly. Will booty call Wednesdays ever return? Will
I
booty
hope
call
so.
Wednesdays ever return? You hope so.
I think
Okay.
that's the tragedy of this whole thing.
Personally, do you think Jimmy is a misogynistic person?
I mean, it's hard to say firsthand because I didn't really interact with him much. I definitely feel like I witnessed misogyny at the company. By the technical definition, I guess, of misogyny is like, I think it's like treating men different than women or prejudice against women
Yeah.
or whatever. And I feel like to some degree, yes. And I feel like he's sort of admitted that on podcasts, that he's like not as comfortable around women. How much of that is just like sort of innocent awkwardness, I guess, or how much is like based on like hate? Like I've heard stories of him, female producers, to get to Jimmy, they had to go through a man like Tyler. And I've heard of female camera operators who Jimmy doesn't want like the cameraman who's close to him, like up in his face or whatever, to be like a female camera operator. He wants them like further away, just so he's like more comfortable. It's like, that's kind of weird, but I don't know if it's just like he's an awkward weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
And how much
That
of it
could
is,
be
like,
possible.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
he
has showed in the
seems
past that he is
weird.
kind of
He
awkward
seems like
in
a
general.
weird guy. So it's like, yeah, I don't understand that at all. That doesn't really, yeah. I mean, yeah, how many of the anonymous people that have come forward to give you information, what percentage would you say are just lying nonsense, or they want clout or whatever? And then what percentage, like how has your sorting process been? Because there's got to be people who are just lying. I mean, there has to be.
Yeah, of course.
With how big this is.
I only talk to people who send proof of employment, for one, so that narrows it down a lot. And then sometimes you get some Twitter DMs of like very obviously fake proof, which is and then like, yeah, the people I speak to, it's less about who's lying. I think most people are reasonably truthful. It's just like, are you exaggerating? Do you have an vendetta? And like, I like to include that, like the Jake Weddle interview, he says, oh, Jimmy doesn't like me, I don't like him either. Oh, I hate you, Jimmy, that feels so good to say, or whatever. And a lot of people, when I sent that around, were like, oh, you should cut that because it hurts credibility. And I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of honest to his motives. So I left stuff like that.
Yeah.
Rumors obviously spread. So like in the last video, I show
I
one
think it's
message
good to
where
be
it's like,
honest about that kind of
LaQuia
stuff.
Hill roofied multiple people. I'm like, I haven't heard that from anyone else. So potentially a rumor. So there's stuff like that where it's like, could be true, could not be true. I'm not going to claim it's true.
Yeah, it's all alleged.
Yeah.
Do you think this will have a good...
I was gonna say, you don't even want to kind of like be like, oh, allegedly, like, because you have absolutely no clue. You don't even have any evidence pointing towards it.
Yeah, long term for sure. I mean, yeah, there just needs to be like maybe more oversight on certain things, or like certain things should be banned. And it's not just Mr. Beast. There's like family channels who just blatantly abuse their kids for content, and it's like, holy shit.
that's so...
How's this allowed on the platform? And then, yeah, like scamming should not be allowed, I think. And when you're doing things with contestants, maybe there should be like some rules, protections, or at least if you're like at that level. I don't know what the solution is, but I think hopefully it has a positive effect long term.
I mean, that's the same thing I've talked about beforehand, is like, what do you, like, I don't want YouTube to be regulated. I'm a very kind of, I guess, small government type person. I think states should, have a lot of authority. And I kind of feel that about like YouTube too. Like, creators should have a lot of authority on stuff. But at the same time, when you get to such like a big company or are running like a podcast, or, I mean, we've seen it with the Local Life podcast, where it's like, friends and audiences like debating basically like, okay, are they actually just employees or are they part owners? And all this other stuff, and they're having like a huge debate about that. And then the whole Tommy C thing of like him being fired, it's like, okay, does he get paid? Does he not get paid for that? Because are you now claiming that they're just employees, or are they still like part owners, or what the heck is happening? And now it's just kind of like, that drama's over, so that happened, I guess. That never really got an answer or got resolved from what I understand and what I've heard, but I haven't really watched much of the Locale Live podcast recently. And then you have stuff like Mr. Beast, where it's like, how is this stuff like not regulated? Like simple stuff like competitions and stuff like that. Like, how are pads not being given out to people who need them, and why aren't they being given? I would assume if pads aren't even being given, I would assume that maybe there's some instances of maybe there's not any privacy of people changing. I don't know this. I'm just kind of assuming off of allegations of them not handing out sanitary products. Again, it's that there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things being said, and there's a lot of evidence pointing towards stuff, and then it's kind of like your wheels kind of start spinning, and you kind of, there's things you're wondering about, just like I am. But back to the topic, what was it? Regulations. It's when YouTube creators get so big, it's like, why isn't stuff being regulated? Because that stuff could be easily avoided. Super avoided, you know? Of, okay, this is what's happening, this is legal documents of what's happening, and this is how things are being run, and this is why things are being run, or these are laws set in place or whatever that you need to do. But I think with Congress and other parts of the government, them being older, no matter what side you're on, whether you're more Republican or more Democrat or third party or whatever, I think we can all kind of agree on there's a lot of them that are older and don't really understand technology. So that makes it hard for them to make a good, well-informed decision, for one. Some of them, I've seen some people in the government that do have good hearts about it, and of like, hey, like, I legitimately don't understand about this, but I am worried, about our kids' futures. Like, what do you think is the best decision and why? And they're trying to get information. And then you see others that are just like, I don't care, I'll be dead. Like, what do I care? Like, that's the next generation's problem. And it's kind of like, are you serious? Really, dude? Like, and then we have situations like this that could be easily avoided. And it's like, crap like this happens. And it's, even if you're kind of small government like I am, like, it's still, like, this is wrong. There should be, in certain situations, there should be an overruling thing of, hey, this is how this should be run, so these mistakes don't happen. Like, kind of what happened to James Weddle and them keeping the lights on for a really long time, and him getting blisters all over his feet because he was running too much, or him having to go to therapy. And, these are all his accounts that he is talking about and is showing kind of photo evidence of stuff happening. And I'm sure he could probably get receipts from therapists and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, this all could have been avoided if YouTube has a little bit more of a structure, or if there's a law in place in general for content creators, not only for YouTube creators, but maybe for like Rumble creators or Kick creators or Twitch creators, of like, hey, this is kind of industry standard. This is what you can do, and this is what you cannot do.
The adpocalypse.
Yeah, I don't think there will be. I think it will have a positive result. I think there's been too much money made for any of this to permanently affect the Mr. Beast empire. Like, I think the brands who you would think would be like, oh, we can't touch this anymore. I don't think that that's how they really operate when there's billions of dollars to be made. The big determinant factor for all that in terms of consequences, I think, will come from how mainstream all this goes. Like, what does the Times say? How many documentaries come out? Like, is this going to be like Dan Schneider, quiet on set type shit? Like, is it going to be insane? Is there going to be documentaries on Netflix and HBO? It is pretty wild, though. It's crazy to see you right at the middle of all.
Yeah, that's the problem, though, is I think a lot of his fans are still kids. So, like, down the line, if he still wanted to be like, oh, I'm running for president, or I'm doing this or that, like, how much of those documentaries are going to come up? And then, like, us adults now are going to be old by that time. Those kids grow up, and then we're going to be like the angry grandpas on the porch of like, no, don't do this. This is a bad decision. And it's going to be hard for us to explain why, because we're finding super old YouTube videos from, 2024, and they're going to be like, well, these are old, allegations. These are old this, these are old that. And it's all alleged, so this could be true, this could not be true, and this could, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I just see this playing out in not a good scenario if these allegations are true and the young audience doesn't really get told about, like, hey, there's bad stuff happening, or parents don't get told, like, hey, there's stuff bad happening in this company, like, maybe your kids shouldn't watch this, or there's no, like, warning from YouTube. So
because you're very stressed, right? Just free and just flowing, bro. So back to the second video a little bit. How do you think the reception to that went? Do you think it went well? We just mentioned Jake a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the result of that, Jake being offered 190 grand, like, that's exactly what I wanted to come out of that. He only took 50. I'm like, dude, take the full 190. But, I respect the decision. And, but yeah, I think the reception to that was overall good. And then the result is good. So I'm happy with that.
Do you think that money being offered was good faith? Was offered in good faith? Or do you think it's just pure track covering?
Oh, I don't
I
know.
don't
I think
think so.
Jake said he hopped on a phone call with him and he was happy with the phone call. So it could have been good faith. I mean, I think he was past the statute of limitations to sue. So yeah, I think it was a good move from Beast. I think it was also an admission of guilt, but I think he needed to sort of admit guilt in that scenario because
Yeah.
he did it. So
Yeah, it's like super validating for that whole video, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
like kind of, bizarre. It's really weird, man. It's really weird. Do you think all this is going to impact Jimmy's 2040 presidential campaign?
oh, big time. That dude's never gonna become president.
Dude, that dude, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know what he's going to do? He's going to do stuff different. That's what he's going to run on. That's his whole thing. I'm doing stuff different. I'll just not do the bad stuff. That's what I'll do.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do the bad stuff.